I'm sure I've asked this question on this channel too, and I've always been wondering, what the fucking fuck are we doing in Syria? What's up, everybody? It's Zach the Celtics guy here, back with another video, second video of the day, and I wanted to get on here and touch base with regards to an issue that Lee Camp from MintPress News, behind the headlines, has posted. The secret reason the U.S. is still in Syria. Now, I think we all know about what's going on with the U.S. military presence in Syria and how it's fucking stupid and how it's imperialist and how we are like the fucking French Foreign Legion and we have no business being in Syria. We are literally in there like a fucking corrupt empire, which is exactly what the U.S. government is and has been for a great number of years. They don't give a shit about Americans. They don't give a shit about us. And it's pretty obvious. And they don't give a shit about the people in Syria either. Just like they sit there and they try to talk about, you know, chemical weapons that don't exist and trying to frame the government of Bashar al-Assad to discredit him and try to overthrow him and whatnot. And you know, funding rebels, moderate rebels that are literally Al-Qaeda, and funding the White Helmets, which are not a voluntary organization. They're literally Al-Qaeda affiliates that are just used as fucking pawns that the U.S. and the West and some of our Gulf state puppets in that region are doing just so we can overthrow Assad, because Assad is, you know, the adversary aligned with Russia and Iran and China and North Korea. But of course we have to overthrow Assad because Assad is the bad guy. Assad's not a puppet of the U.S. Assad is an independent, secular leader that actually gives a shit about his own country and gives a shit about the people that, you know, the Muslims and the Christians and others that are all there, you know, just trying to live in peace. But the U.S. can't let those people live in peace because the U.S. has to get involved. Because that's just what they do. They are there to steal their oil. They are there to establish a puppet government there. They are there for imperialist purposes. They don't give a shit about Muslims. They don't give a shit about the people in Syria. Everybody says this. And everybody with half a brain in their head understands this. Lee Camp from MintPress News says this. The Gray Zone says this. Everybody at the Gray Zone says this. Jimmy Dore says this. Ben Norton from Multipolarista, he says this. Nick and CJ at Revolutionary Blackout Network says this. Sabrina Salvati from Sabby Sab's podcast says this. Nick, the Flame of Liberation, also says this. My comrades on this channel, we all say this. You know why? Because we're trying to wake up our fellow citizens one at a time. And Lee Camp is also leading the pack.
The U.S. has cut most Syrians off from much of the food, medicine, and raw materials they need to live. But that's a good thing, because you know what they say. Every time a Syrian infant doesn't get the food or medicine they need, an angel gets its wings. And a neocon overcomes his constipation. It's tough to overstate how bad things are in Syria. 90% of all Syrians today are forced to live below the poverty line, with around 12 million grappling with severe food insecurity.
That's so fucked up. But they would blame it on Assad. They're not going to blame it on the Syrians. Just like when the U.S. has been sanctioning Cuba to death for over half a century. Just like we've been sanctioning Venezuela and sanctioning Nicaragua. When there's poverty going on there and whatnot, then they just blame it on socialism and communism and blame it all on the fucking governments and not the sanctions themselves. It's a way for U.S. imperialism and hegemony to go in there and destroy independent countries so they can, you know, establish a puppet government, take their oil, take their resources, because a bunch of fucking corrupt capitalist oligarchs and imperialists want to steal global resources from the global south.
90%. We've turned 90% of that country into a starving hellhole, and we're supposed to be proud?
As an American, that makes me fucking furious, and I'm embarrassed by that type of shit.
Of our country? Proud of good old Uncle Sam? It's like when my alcoholic uncle wanted me to be proud he managed to accidentally drive his car over our neighbor's mailbox instead of ours when he parked it in the middle of our jungle gym. Pride wasn't...
Lee Camp, I fucking love you. Lee Camp of MintPress and Behind the Headlines, you are a national and international treasure. Long live you.
Word I would use to describe it. We have proof that sanctions or economic war kill thousands, if not millions. They even cause immense death and suffering when done to our own people. You see, when economic war is waged against a country's own citizens, it has a different name. It's called austerity. And a landmark study in 2017 found the conservative UK government committed economic murder, linking the country's austerity to 120,000 deaths.
It is murder. It's economic terrorism, launching economic warfare. It's literally economic bio-warfare. And then, but remember, if you say any of this, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're an Assad apologist if you say any of this stuff. Just like we all know what everybody over at the fucking Young Turds says. We all know what everyone at CNN and MSNBC says. We all know what the neocons say. If you say any of the stuff that I say or Lee Camp from MintPress says or anything everyone at the Gray Zone says, including Aaron Mate, one of the biggest experts on Syria, if you say any of this stuff, you are labeled an Assadist and everything else. If you call out the staged chemical attacks that are staged by the White Helmets and by Al-Qaeda, then you are an Assadist, an Assad apologist, like whatever. Like this is all the fucking imperialists have to offer. They can't argue the facts like what Lee Camp and myself are doing.
In just a few years. I knew Boris had some bodies in his basement, the ones he didn't eat with brown sauce. Oh, brown sauce.
But that would be okay, right? Because according to people who are pro-censorship like Sam fucking Harris, who actually supports American imperialism, he was okay with the U.S. fucking bombing Muslim countries as long as Trump wasn't doing it. But remember, Hunter Biden could have the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared. Now, but we all know that, yeah.
So if that many people are murdered by cuts to welfare and health care, just imagine the number of deaths of innocent people caused by not even having clean water in Syria. Similarly, a former UN rapporteur on human rights said in 2020 that U.S. sanctions in Venezuela have killed 100,000 people there. Last year, the UN Human Rights Council demanded an end to all of this unilateral sanctioning garbage.
The socialist governments in Venezuela have lifted people out of poverty. Hugo Chavez lifted 60% of people there out of poverty over the years. But of course, once Obama started putting sanctions on Nicolas Maduro, then that's when poverty started going up. And by the way, Venezuela has been able to buck the trend on global inflation. So, good for them. You know, Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua, that is one of Biden's biggest adversaries, and Biden has been a fucking terrorist against him. Daniel Ortega and the Sandinistas in Nicaragua have been one of the most successful in Central America. And that is a fucking fact.
He said, punishment of innocent civilians through government sanctions must end.
And the UN also said that it was a crime against humanity. That U.S. sanctions on Syria amount to crimes against humanity. Do you know why? Because you're starving people through economic warfare because you don't like the government. Does anyone wonder why people around the world look at the U.S. like, ugh, our foreign policy, like, ugh? Do you know why? Because we're the world's biggest terrorists, okay? We are the world's biggest fucking terrorist network. The U.S. government is the biggest fucking terrorist organization on the face of the planet, with our puppet arm of Israel and Saudi Arabia and Ukraine's and Nazi Zinsky's Ukraine and the neo-Nazis in Ukraine, the Al-Qaeda-backed ISIS that made it in Saudi Arabia and all of that. Okay, this is what we are seeing. The U.S. government is the biggest fucking war machine on the planet, the biggest terrorist organization on the planet. And FBI, if you don't like it, fuck you. I don't care what you have to say. I'm a dissident and I will speak out against it because I want my country and I want my neighbors and I want people in the Middle East and Latin America to live in fucking peace. And if you have to drag me out in fucking handcuffs, and if any of you fucking tyrants in the government and your badges, including you border security, homeland security, if you want to drag me out in handcuffs, you know what? I'd rather get punished that way than to sit here and be silent while my government is committing crimes against innocent people in the global south. Fuck you.
The experts underscored that people in targeted countries like Venezuela, Cuba, Syria, and Iran sink into poverty.
But I'm unpatriotic if I say this, right? I'm unpatriotic if I question my government. If I say my government is filled with a bunch of fucking terrorists, then that makes me unpatriotic, right? That makes me unpatriotic to be a dissident, even though dissent is the greatest form of patriotism. I don't hate my country. I don't hate my neighbor. I hate the fucking assholes that run it, and I hate the fucking establishment. Fuck all of them.
Because they can't get essential services like electricity, housing, water, gas, and fuel, let alone medicine and food. Food, medicine, fuel. I mean, do you have any idea how important electricity is?
Basic necessities, motherfucker. Basic necessities. Basic necessities. You will never hear the progressives talk about this. You'll just hear the Young Turks smear Syria and blame it all on Assad. They haven't even said 1/1,000,000th of the things that Lee Camp has ever said. You know why? Because Lee Camp and all of us, we all know the facts, and the Young Turds don't. Remember, the Young Turds are the same ones. You know, Cenk Uygur was the guy that was giving money to fucking pro-cop Republicans, right? And giving arms and everything else and saying all of this stuff. Yeah, Cenk Uygur did that. Cenk Uygur did that. Mr. fucking pro-cop bitching and moaning about all of this type of stuff, and you're wanting to fund the fucking tyrants and badges. We all know what Cenk Uygur's all about. He's a fucking neocon. A neoliberal fucking right-wing establishment fuck. Whereas Lee Camp and everyone at the Gray Zone and MintPress News and all of my other anti-imperialist networks that I am big fans of and I sponsor on this channel, sponsor as an advocate for, they are the real truth tellers, and I will continue to do it because I will be here to make a stand.
I was in New York City during the blackout. It lasted 47 hours, and by the end of it, half of us were married to people we'd never met, and we were eating stale hot dog buns we stole from a homeless guy who'd been using them as insulation in his jacket. It was horrible. The U.S. also passed the so-called Syria Civilian Protection Act in 2019, imposing secondary sanctions on all non-U.S. citizens who deal with the Syrian government in any way. The Syrian Civilian Protection Act.
Because as if we're protecting Syrians, right? As if we're protecting Syrians. Yeah, we're protecting Syrians by impoverishing them and destroying their lives and then blaming it on Assad. Even though Syria was relatively peaceful. Sure, it was a strict country with brutal laws and whatnot, just like Gaddafi's Libya. Gaddafi's Libya was the most successful nation in all of Africa until Obama and Hillary Clinton went in there and NATO went in there and fucking destroyed them. Now it's a failed state with slave markets. And that's what Syria is degrading into because of U.S. and Zionist hegemony.
Meanwhile, according to the UN rapporteur,
they are not the terrorists. The U.S. government and Israel are the terrorists. And Saudi Arabia is also the terrorists.
Maintaining such sanctions may amount to crimes against humanity. So, one may at some point ask, what does the U.S. actually want in Syria? In fact,
we want their oil, we want their resources, and we want a puppet government in there. That's what the U.S. government wants.
German outlet Deutsche Welle asked recently, what does the U.S. actually want in Syria?
Even a German fucking TV outlet was like, what does the U.S. want in Syria? What does the U.S. want in Syria?
Troops have been stationed in Syria since 2015, and in 2018, the Washington Post said U.S. troops will now stay in Syria indefinitely, controlling a third of the country.
And is Joe Biden any different? Is he any different than Trump? No, Trump was just the ugly American. He was the ugliest face on American imperialism. Because they could not have Trump in there admitting we were in Syria to steal their oil and try to assassinate Assad. No, we have to say that we are the spreaders of freedom and democracy. That's what Joe Biden is doing. That's what Obama did. That's what Bush did. That's what they all fucking did. And that's why you say any of this stuff, you get smeared as a puppet of Russia and a puppet of Syria. No, I don't care. I don't care about the labels. The labels, fuck your labels, fuck your bullshit, and fuck all of these politicians in the West and in the U.S. Fuck all of them, except for a select few that are halfway decent. But you know what? Who trusts politicians 100%? A fucking moron, that's who. If you trust politicians 100%, you're a fucking moron. And you're a chump for the establishment. But remember, they're the bad guys, not us. No, we're the bad guys in this. The U.S. government is the bad ones. Well, they destroy us at home and destroy other countries. That's all what's going on.
Well, luckily, last year, the U.S. government reviewed their goals. They came up with 4 priorities in Syria. First was continuing to fight ISIS. And thank God, because every American has had a tough time with ISIS recently. I mean,
ISIS was created by Bush's invasion of fucking Iraq. That's how it happened.
I was at a movie theater in Newport News a couple of weeks ago just trying to catch
That's Virginia.
the latest Puss in Boots flick. The place was crawling with ISIS fighters. Can't get popcorn because ISIS took it all. Can't make out with your kid's nanny in the back of the theater because ISIS.
Because of ISIS. Yeah, ISIS is Al Qaeda, which is Saudi fucking Arabia. Not Syria. Syria is fighting ISIS. The Iranian government is also fighting ISIS. You know that Iranian general that fucking piece of shit Trump assassinated, right? He was fighting ISIS. So just remember that. Trump being the fucking psychopathic warmongering piece of shit that he is, no different than the rest of them, but he assassinated an Iranian general, a foreign general that was fighting ISIS. Just remember, this is exactly what's going on. All of this. None of this is conspiracies. None of this is a Zach the Celtics guy creation. All of this is fact. And none of it is what the media will tell you. None of it is what the boob tube will tell you. But anyway, I'm going to head off now. But thank you to everybody who came to listen to this, including my other video that I made, all the other good stuff. Stick around for more stuff on the way, coming your way soon, including my early afternoon stream tomorrow. So hope you all enjoy, and I'll see you all again next time with more streams, more videos, and other stuff like this coming up soon. More stuff on the way. This is Zach the Celtics guy saying thank you for watching. See you all again in the next video, in the next stream, and be aware of all of this information. I know all of you, my comrades, are aware of this, but we need to continue to speak out against this, because the more we speak out, the more progress can be done. Stay tuned, stay classy, and keep fighting. Peace out.